Shedeur got on the field. You watching the game, Chad, there's a lot of Shedeur Sanders fans. What did you think of his first outing?
Listen, all the talk and the narratives and the storylines and whatever you want to say, sooner or later that ball was about to snap. And that young man we watched in Colorado.
What was supposed to be a groundbreaking moment for Shedeur Sanders is already being questioned. The highly publicized Nike shoe deal, once seen as a major win for both Sanders and the Browns, has sparked whispers that the partnership is backfiring before it even finds its footing. From sales not matching the initial hype to fan criticism that he hasn't earned the spotlight yet, the deal has quickly shifted from celebration to concern. Now, instead of building momentum, Sanders and Nike may be facing a tougher battle than anyone expected. TV ratings jumped 19% the moment Sanders took the field in his first preseason snap, a clear sign that fans were eager to see what the rookie quarterback could deliver. But that early spike in interest hasn't carried over into sustained momentum, and that's where the reported Nike shoe deal starts looking less like a breakthrough and more like a risky gamble. The headlines around Sanders' massive partnership came before he had logged meaningful NFL snaps, before he had proven himself against top-tier defenses, and before he had established a rhythm in Kevin Stefanski's offense. The result is that expectations skyrocketed overnight, but the performance and sales data haven't caught up. Within 2 weeks of the announcement, resale markets for Sanders' limited edition Nike drops fell from triple digits to barely above retail, and Cleveland area sports stores reported that sales slowed by nearly 40% compared to launch weekend. That drop-off is exactly what critics point to when they say the deal may be backfiring. The Browns had hoped that attaching Sanders to Nike would help them generate a surge of national buzz, a way to translate his college celebrity into professional momentum. And for a few days, it worked. Merchandise numbers spiked, his jersey ranked top 5 among rookies league-wide, and Cleveland saw a short-term lift in social media engagement. But those highs were fleeting, as Sanders struggled to adjust to NFL speed, completing just 54% of his passes in early reps and missing key throws in joint practices. The narrative began to shift. Instead of focusing on his potential, fans and analysts started asking whether Nike had jumped the gun. Unlike Patrick Mahomes, who didn't land a signature shoe until after proving himself in the league, Sanders became a marketing headline before becoming a football headline, and that contrast is fueling skepticism. The timing of the deal is critical. Cleveland hasn't sold out every home preseason game since 2018, and Sanders' arrival was supposed to help change that. When ticket resale prices for his first appearance briefly spiked above $175, it looked like proof the experiment was working. Yet once he was ruled out of extended action due to minor soreness, the market collapsed, and some seats sold for as little as $35 by kickoff. That volatility shows how quickly hype can fade when performance doesn't align with promotion. The Browns front office is aware of the optics, because for them, this isn't just about Sanders, it's about leveraging a rare rookie spotlight to build a bigger market presence in a city that ranks in the bottom half of NFL revenue charts. When that momentum stalls, it affects more than jersey racks and sneaker shelves. It puts pressure on the team's broader business strategy. Nike itself faces a similar dilemma. The company has long sought to lock in emerging stars before they peak, betting that an early partnership will pay off once those players mature. With Sanders, they saw a unique opportunity. The son of an NFL Hall of Famer, a quarterback with massive social media reach, and a college resume that included highlight reel throws and viral moments. On paper, it made sense. But the NFL market is brutally different. In college, Sanders benefited from his father's visibility at Colorado, where TV ratings regularly doubled for his games compared to average Pac-12 broadcasts. In the NFL, Cleveland's national spotlight is narrower, and while viewership for his preseason debut rose 19%, the following game dipped by nearly 800,000 viewers when he sat out. For Nike, that fluctuation suggests they may not have the consistent platform they envisioned, and that makes the investment riskier. Fan sentiment underscores the problem. Local radio polls showed that 57% of Browns fans believed Sanders' deal was premature given his lack of NFL snaps, and callers were quick to point out that it adds unnecessary pressure to an already high-stakes rookie season. Nationally, comparisons to Johnny Manziel began to surface, not because Sanders has shown the same off-field habits, but because both players became marketing sensations before proving themselves under center. That kind of narrative can be damaging because once it takes hold, every missed throw or bad quarter reinforces the idea that the spotlight came too soon. Sportsbooks too have felt the ripple effects. Prop bets around Sanders' rookie stats saw heavy action in July when the Nike news broke, with over 65% of Browns-related wagers including some Sanders element from passing yards to touchdowns. But by late August, those numbers dropped by nearly half as bettors lost confidence in his immediate production. For a league that thrives on betting engagement, seeing interest collapse that quickly after a marketing push suggests the hype cycle may have already peaked. The consequence is clear. When hype outpaces performance, money dries up fast. From a team perspective, the Nike deal complicates locker room dynamics. Sanders is technically a backup on the depth chart, but he's walking into practice with the status of a brand centerpiece. Veterans notice that, and it can create quiet tension when a rookie hasn't yet earned that level of spotlight on the field. Coaches too face an extra layer of challenge. Stefanski now has to manage not only Sanders' development, but also the external narrative that surrounds every snap he takes. Losing those reps means Stefanski has no film to evaluate Sanders with starters, and without that, it's difficult to project whether he's ready to handle real NFL speed. The financial ripple effects extend beyond Cleveland. National broadcast partners have already slotted Browns games into higher profile windows early in the season, banking on Sanders to drive casual fan interest. If the Nike deal fizzles and Sanders doesn't start, those ratings could underperform projections, which in turn affects ad revenue tied to those broadcasts. That's why the word backfire isn't just dramatic framing, it reflects a real risk across multiple levels of the NFL ecosystem. In sum, the immediate headline is that what was supposed to be a slam dunk endorsement deal has instead introduced volatility. Sales spiked, then dropped. Ratings surged, then dipped. Fan excitement turned to skepticism, and every measurable outcome, ticket prices, prop bets, merchandise demand, shows that Sanders' Nike deal may have raised expectations to a level that neither he nor the Browns were ready to meet. Losing momentum this early in his rookie year matters more for Shedeur Sanders than it would for most young quarterbacks, and that's why the Nike deal is such a lightning rod. A standard rookie can quietly work through early mistakes, developing at a pace that doesn't make national headlines. But Sanders doesn't have that luxury. Every throw he makes, every quarter he plays, is now measured against the size of his endorsement deal, the hype of his college career, and the marketing push Nike is banking on. In Cleveland, a franchise that has cycled through more than 24 quarterbacks since returning in 1999, the pressure isn't just about potential, it's about credibility. Sanders is expected to be the future, and when a shoe deal dominates the headlines before his first NFL touchdown pass, fans begin to wonder whether priorities are misaligned. From a football perspective, the biggest issue is reps. Sanders has already missed time with soreness, and in a league where rookie quarterbacks need every snap to adjust to speed and defensive disguises, those absences are magnified. The Browns coaching staff tracked that he missed 42% of his projected preseason reps with the starting unit, leaving Kevin Stefanski without critical film to evaluate Sanders' chemistry with top receivers like Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore. That gap in evaluation means the team enters the season with more questions than answers about whether Sanders is prepared to handle live NFL defenses. For the Browns, this lack of clarity is dangerous. They can't afford another quarterback controversy in a city that's seen too many false starts under center. On the business side, timing is everything. Cleveland's local TV ratings surged 28% during the preseason opener, largely credited to Sanders' debut, but they fell by nearly 1 million viewers in week 2 when he was sidelined. That swing demonstrates the volatility of tying so much promotional energy to one player. If Sanders doesn't play, the Browns risk losing national relevance, and that's a serious issue for a franchise in one of the NFL's smaller revenue markets. Sponsors track those numbers closely. When ad slots around Browns games lose viewership, it trickles into negotiations with local partners, affecting everything from stadium signage to digital campaigns. What Nike framed as a long-term brand bet is already influencing short-term business outcomes for the team. Ticket sales tell a similar story. The Browns had one of the largest single-game resale spikes in August, with Sanders' expected debut driving average prices above $170. But by the following week, with Sanders inactive, resale prices cratered to $42 in some sections, barely above face value. That's not a normal fluctuation, it's a direct reflection of one rookie's pull on the market. Why it matters now is that fans are sending a clear message. They bought into Sanders as an attraction, not just the Browns as a team. If his play doesn't justify the hype, those fans could could disengage just as quickly, and for a franchise that has long struggled to keep momentum through losing seasons, that's a dangerous dynamic. For Sanders himself, the stakes are even higher. A rookie quarterback's reputation can be shaped in weeks, not years, and Sanders has already entered a unique spotlight. According to NFLPA data, his jersey ranked top 5 in rookie sales during the first month after the draft, even surpassing more established names like Jaden Daniels and Drake May. That early success shows his marketability, but it also means fans expect immediate returns. When those expectations aren't met, when a player misses throws, misses reps, or struggles to command the huddle, the disappointment feels sharper. The Nike deal isn't just a business arrangement, it's a visible reminder of the gap between promise and production. The Browns also face a delicate locker room situation. Veteran players like Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb have earned their stature through years of production and Pro Bowl appearances. Yet Sanders arrives with a multi-million-dollar shoe contract and more media coverage than the entire roster combined. Why it matters now is that those dynamics affect chemistry. NFL veterans respect talent, but they also value humility and performance. If Sanders doesn't back up the hype with execution, frustration can brew silently, and for a team trying to stabilize after years of inconsistency, that undercurrent is the last thing Stefanski wants to manage. Coaches already juggle balancing reps between Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, and adding endorsement chatter to the mix only complicates the evaluation process. Media coverage amplifies the stakes. National outlets from ESPN to Fox Sports ran features on Sanders' Nike deal, framing him as one of the NFL's next big marketable stars. That narrative raised Cleveland's profile, but it also created an environment where every stumble becomes breaking news. Why it matters now is that the NFL news cycle thrives on contrast. The higher the hype, the harsher the criticism when reality doesn't match. Cleveland isn't just a football story anymore. It's a business story, a rating story, and a marketing experiment. And if the early signs of backlash grow, Sanders risks becoming a symbol of over-promotion, not potential. Another angle that underscores why this matters now is the gambling market. Sportsbooks reported that over 65% of preseason Browns bets were tied to Sanders-related props when the Nike news broke, ranging from passing yards to touchdowns. By week 2, that figure had fallen by nearly half, with bettors shifting money towards safer plays around the Browns' defense. This matters because it shows how quickly belief can evaporate in the betting community, which often mirrors broader fan confidence. A rookie who begins his career as a betting favorite but loses that position within weeks signals a market correction, one that Nike and Cleveland didn't anticipate. Finally, there's the question of perception beyond Cleveland. Nike's goal wasn't just to sell sneakers in Ohio, it was to create a quarterback brand with national reach. Yet in markets like New York, Dallas, and Los Angeles, Sanders merchandise hasn't cracked the top 15 in sales, trailing behind other rookies and even some defensive stars. That discrepancy highlights why this moment matters so much. If the deal doesn't resonate nationally, Nike risks burning resources on a regional figure rather than a league-wide icon. For Sanders, that means the brand that was supposed to elevate him could instead expose limitations in his current reach. The bottom line is that Sanders doesn't have time on his side. Every snap he takes is being evaluated not just as a rookie quarterback, but as the face of a marketing gamble. The Nike deal magnifies every incompletion, every benching, and every injury concern. And for Cleveland, the franchise can't afford for that gamble to fail, not when their revenue, ratings, and credibility are tied to his success. That's why it matters now. The backfire risk isn't theoretical, it's already showing up in numbers, in sales, in viewership, and in the fragile confidence of a fan base that has seen too many false dawns at quarterback. Unlike most rookie quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders isn't being judged solely on his preseason stats. He's being measured against a marketing spotlight that historically has been reserved for proven stars. To put the Nike deal into perspective, it helps to look at how other athletes fared when big business came calling early in their careers. The results are mixed, and they provide a roadmap for why Sanders' situation feels especially precarious. Take Johnny Manziel, for example. When the Browns drafted him in 2014, he signed endorsement deals with Nike and Panini before playing a single professional snap, his jersey instantly ranked top 5 in league sales, and Cleveland ticket resale markets jumped nearly 40% for his preseason debut. National TV ratings for that game surged by 35% compared to the Browns' previous preseason, proving the buzz was real. But as Menziel faltered on the field, completing just 51% of his passes in limited action, those numbers collapsed. By week 10 of his rookie season, his jersey sales had dropped out of the top 25, and Nike quietly scaled back his marketing campaigns. The cautionary tale is obvious. Hype can create an initial boom, but without sustained performance, it evaporates quickly. Contrast that with Trevor Lawrence. Drafted first overall in 2021, Lawrence also entered the NFL with massive expectations and early endorsement deals, including Adidas. But unlike Menziel, Lawrence's endorsements were rolled out more gradually, allowing him to prove himself on the field before becoming a full-blown marketing figure. His jersey consistently ranked in the top 10 through his rookie year, and Jaguars TV ratings in Jacksonville improved by 22% compared to the prior season, despite the team's losing record. By the time he led the Jaguars to a playoff berth in 2022, Adidas had a legitimate star tied to performance, not just promise. The difference wasn't just talent, it was timing. Lawrence's endorsement exposure was scaled to match his on-field development, something Sanders' Nike deal hasn't allowed. Even outside the NFL, the lesson repeats. Zion Williamson's shoe deal with Jordan Brand made him the highest paid rookie endorser in NBA history. The hype drove an immediate merchandise frenzy, with his Pelicans jersey leading sales across the league. But injuries derailed his availability, and by his second season, national TV ratings for Pelicans games had dipped nearly 30% compared to his debut year. The shoes still sold, but the narrative became about what fans weren't seeing on the court. Sanders' Nike deal risks falling into the same trap, creating a spotlight that magnifies absence, whether it's missed snaps, missed throws, or missed games. There are also positive comps. Patrick Mahomes didn't land his first significant Nike campaign until after his MVP season in 2018, at which point his jersey sales ranked number 1 league-wide, and Kansas City's local TV ratings grew 45% over 2 years. Nike's strategy with Mahomes was built on proof, not projection. Similarly, Tom Brady's endorsement empire didn't truly explode until his 3rd Super Bowl win, when fan demand made him a natural marketing figure. The lesson here is that patience pays off, because once performance is undeniable, merchandise and media deals tend to have staying power. Sanders, by contrast, has skipped the proving stage. His Nike deal places him in the category of instant icon, but history shows that without early validation, that category often collapses under its own weight. Another telling comparison is Baker Mayfield. Drafted first overall by Cleveland in 2018, Mayfield signed a series of endorsement deals with Progressive, Nike, and Hulu before establishing himself as a consistent starter. At first, the marketing seemed to work. His jersey sales were top 5 among rookies, and Cleveland's home attendance increased by nearly 7,000 fans per game compared to the prior season. But as Mayfield's performance dipped, completing just 59% of his passes in his final season with the Browns, fan sentiment turned sour. Progressive pulled his commercials, and his jersey dropped out of the top 50. For Cleveland fans, Sanders' Nike deal echoes the Mayfield arc. Early marketing glory, followed by skepticism when the production didn't sustain. That memory looms large in the fan psyche, making them quicker to doubt Sanders' spotlight. Numbers from national broadcasts also highlight the contrast. When Andrew Luck entered the league in 2012, Colts national TV ratings improved by 34% year over year, largely because his performance validated the hype. By contrast, Robert Griffin III saw his national ratings spike 41% in his rookie season, but as injuries mounted, those ratings dropped back to baseline within 2 years. In both cases, endorsements followed the trajectory of performance, growing with Luck, fading with Griffin. Sanders' situation mirrors Griffin's in that the business machine has jumped in early, before durability and consistency have been proven. Looking specifically at merchandise, rookie quarterbacks who sustain momentum usually pair on-field flashes with business growth. Justin Herbert, for example, entered 2020 with modest preseason hype, but finished his rookie season ranked 7th in jersey sales league-wide, with Chargers attendance improving by 12% once fans were allowed back post-pandemic. He didn't need an early shoe deal. His play drove the demand organically. Sanders, however, is being asked to manufacture that demand artificially, which is why the early dip in resale prices and merchandise interest is so concerning. It suggests the deal is operating in reverse, trying to use branding to generate performance momentum rather than letting performance fuel the brand. There's also a broader league-wide trend to consider. According to Fanatics, rookie jersey sales that start in the top 5 but fall outside the top 20 within a season almost never recover to elite levels. Menziel, Griffin, and Mayfield all followed that path. By contrast, rookies who build slowly but sustain, like Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, see their merchandise climb steadily over multiple years, even if it doesn't start with a bang. Sanders is clearly in the former category right now, front-loaded hype, declining metrics. Unless he reverses the trajectory with strong on-field play, history suggests the Nike deal could lose national steam quickly. Finally, the comparison to LeBron James is unavoidable. When LeBron signed his Nike deal out of high school, many thought it was premature, but his performance immediately justified the investment. He averaged over 20 points per game as a rookie, filled arenas nationwide, and drove Cavaliers ticket sales up by 36% in a single season. His Nike shoes became a cultural phenomenon, not just a sports product. The key difference is that LeBron proved the hype on the court immediately. Sanders doesn't have the same margin for error. Quarterbacks can't dominate games with highlight reels the way basketball stars can, and NFL fans are less patient. The NFL demands results, completion percentages, touchdown drives, playoff contention. Without that, a flashy shoe deal looks hollow. The historical comparisons lead to a clear conclusion. Sanders' Nike partnership is unprecedented for its timing, and precedent suggests the risk is real. Most rookies who get pushed into heavy endorsement roles before proving themselves either flame out or struggle to sustain momentum. The rare exceptions, LeBron, Mahomes, luck, paired marketing with undeniable early performance. Unless Sanders follows that path, the backfire narrative could solidify, and once fan trust is lost, neither Nike nor the Browns can easily win it back. The deeper you look into Shedeur Sanders' reported Nike shoe deal, the more you realize it's about far more than sneakers. This isn't just a story about a rookie quarterback signing an endorsement. It's a case study in how hype, business, and perception intersect in today's NFL. At the surface level, Nike wants Sanders to be a bridge between college celebrity and professional stardom, using his name, recognition, and social media following to sell a product line. But peel back the layers, and you see ripple effects across Cleveland's business ecosystem, the NFL's national broadcast strategy, and the way fans view authenticity in an era when branding often arrives before results. Start with Nike. The company has long built its empire on being first to market with the next superstar. They signed LeBron James before his first NBA game, and that gamble paid off in billions. They signed Zion Williamson with similar logic, hoping to replicate the formula. With Sanders, the thinking is clear. His father's Hall of Fame legacy, his notoriety from Colorado, and his viral moments on social media created a rare package. By securing him early, Nike aimed to corner the market before competitors like Adidas or Under Armour could swoop in. But the NFL doesn't function like basketball, where individual star power can dominate culture from day one. Football players, especially quarterbacks, need time to prove themselves, and the league's spotlight is more fragmented. That difference means Nike's traditional playbook might not translate as smoothly as it did with basketball prodigies. From Cleveland's perspective, the deal represents both opportunity and risk. The Browns are not a top-tier revenue team. They don't have the global brand pull of the Cowboys, Packers, or Patriots. According to Forbes, Cleveland ranks in the bottom third of NFL revenue, with limited national merchandise presence. Attaching themselves to Sanders' Nike deal was a way to artificially boost their brand equity, to say, we've got the NFL's next big thing. And for a brief moment, it worked. Cleveland's preseason opener drew 5.7 million viewers nationally, up nearly 30% compared to the same slot a year earlier. Social media engagement around the Browns spiked by 42% in the week following Nike's announcement, but those metrics flattened quickly. By the second preseason game, viewership dipped back under 4 million, closer to baseline. The sustainability question is at the heart of this deal. Can hype survive without results? Local business partners are already asking that question. Corporate sponsors in Cleveland pay millions for stadium signage, digital campaigns, and regional TV ads. ads. They expected Sanders' Nike association to bring a halo effect, more national mentions, more jersey sales, more ticket demand. But when resale prices for his debut plummeted from $175 to $40 within days, it signaled volatility. Sponsors don't like volatility. They like predictable return on investment. One marketing executive told the Cleveland Plain Dealer that the Sanders deal is a high-risk, high-reward bet, but that so far, the returns don't match the buzz. For a franchise already trying to rebuild credibility after years of quarterback turnover, that mismatch is concerning. National broadcast partners face their own balancing act. Networks like ESPN and NBC flex their schedules to feature teams with rising stars. Because stars drive casual viewership, Sanders' Nike deal created the perception of a rising star, leading to speculation that Brown's games could be shifted into primetime slots if he impressed early. But if Sanders doesn't see the field or struggles when he does, networks risk promoting games that underperform. That directly affects ad rates, which are negotiated based on expected ratings. A single percentage point drop in national NFL ratings can translate into tens of millions in lost advertising revenue league-wide. The question becomes, did Nike's push raise expectations too fast, creating broadcast pressure that Sanders isn't ready to fulfill? The gambling industry adds another layer of context. Sportsbooks saw an unusual spike in Browns-related props the week Nike's deal hit headlines. More than 60% of bets involving Cleveland tied to Sanders' passing yards or touchdowns. That surge reflected the belief that he would be a focal point, but by late August, sportsbooks reported a 48% decline in Sanders-related bets, with action shifting to defensive props or alternate team matchups. For sportsbooks, volatility is expected, but the speed of the swing was notable. It mirrors what we see in merchandise and ticketing. Early excitement, rapid drop-off. And when multiple revenue streams show the same pattern, it suggests a larger structural issue. Hype is outpacing reality. Fan sentiment, perhaps more than any financial metric, defines the long-term viability of deals like this. In Cleveland, polls on local sports radio show that a majority of fans, 57%, felt the Nike deal was too soon. The sentiment wasn't anti-Sanders, it was about sequencing. Fans wanted him to prove himself on the field before being pushed as a national brand. That sense of misalignment fuels skepticism, and skepticism is contagious. Once fans believe a player is overhyped, every misstep confirms the narrative. This isn't a new phenomenon. It's the same pattern that turned Johnny Manziel from a local hero to a cautionary tale. What makes Sanders' case unique is that the branding came even earlier, before meaningful NFL reps. Another contextual factor is Cleveland's history. This is a franchise scarred by decades of quarterback instability, from Tim Couch to Brandon Weeden to Baker Mayfield. Each time, fans bought into the hype, only to feel let down. Sanders enters not just as a rookie, but as the next chapter in a long saga of unfulfilled potential. The Nike deal, rather than inspiring confidence, reopens old wounds for a fan base that has grown wary of flash without substance. That context matters because fan patience is already worn thin. If Sanders struggles, the backlash may not just be about him. It may be about the cumulative frustration of years of quarterback disappointment. There's also a cultural angle. In today's NFL, authenticity is currency. Players like Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow built their brands by aligning marketing with on-field performance. Fans believed in them because they earned it. Sanders, fairly or unfairly, is fighting the perception that his brand came before his production. In a league where locker room culture and fan loyalty depend on credibility, that order of operations matters. If Sanders plays well, the Nike deal becomes validation. If he doesn't, it becomes ammunition for critics. That's why this isn't just a shoe story, it's a credibility story. Finally, the deeper context extends to Nike itself. The company has faced declining basketball shoe sales in recent years, and expanding deeper into football represents both opportunity and challenge. Quarterbacks are the most marketable NFL figures, but they're also the hardest to project. By signing Sanders, Nike hoped to capture a cultural crossover figure, someone who could reach younger audiences through social media while also selling traditional sports merchandise. But if Sanders doesn't deliver, Nike risks alienating both markets. For sneakerheads, the product will feel hollow without cultural relevance. For NFL fans, the product will feel premature without performance. Nike's gamble, then, is not just on Sanders, it's on whether football endorsements can follow the same playbook that worked in basketball. The early signs suggest the translation isn't seamless. When you step back, the deeper context shows why talk of the deal backfiring isn't just speculation. The numbers point in the same direction across multiple fronts. Viewership spiked, then dipped. Ticket sales surged, then cratered. Merchandise flew off shelves, then slowed dramatically. Fan sentiment shifted from excitement to skepticism. And Nike, Cleveland, broadcasters, sportsbooks, and sponsors are all left trying to navigate a narrative that feels unstable. That instability is the real issue. Endorsements thrive on consistency, and right now, consistency is the one thing missing from the Shedeur Sanders experiment. Projecting forward, the most important question is whether Shedeur Sanders can flip the script. Endorsements rise and fall with performance, and Nike's gamble only pays off if Sanders becomes more than a headline. If he delivers on the field, the deal stabilizes, sales recover, and both sides can point to a bold bet that aged well. But if he falters, the consequences won't just be personal. They'll ripple through the Browns locker room, their front office, and Nike's broader marketing strategy in the NFL. The first implication is roster related. Sanders has already missed nearly half of his projected preseason reps, and the Browns need to decide how aggressively to integrate him into regular season action. If Kevin Stefanski leans conservative and keeps Sanders in a backup role, Nike's marketing plan faces a stall. Shoe campaigns can't thrive when the face of the product is holding a clipboard on the sideline. That tension could pressure the Browns to accelerate Sanders' development, even before he's fully ready, and that creates risk on two fronts. Either he plays and struggles, confirming skeptics' fears, or he doesn't play enough, leaving Nike and fans questioning why a shoe deal exists at all. The second implication is financial. Cleveland has already seen how Sanders drives ticket demand. His preseason debut spiked resale prices above $170, while his absence dropped them to $40. That level of volatility means Sanders' presence will directly impact gate revenue. If he doesn't play, fans disengage. If he plays poorly, they disengage even faster. For a franchise in the bottom third of NFL revenue, that's a dangerous dependency. It means that, fairly or unfairly, Sanders now carries financial weight beyond his rookie contract. The Browns aren't just managing a quarterback, they're managing a brand asset, and if that asset underperforms, sponsors and ticket buyers will pull back. Nike itself faces long-term reputational stakes. If Sanders' shoe line fails to gain traction, it could reinforce the perception that football players aren't viable sneaker icons outside of a handful of transcendent figures like Bo Jackson or Michael Vick. That would discourage Nike from investing heavily in similar deals in the future, narrowing the path for the next wave of rookies. On the flip side, if Sanders breaks through, Nike could use the success as a blueprint, aggressively targeting other young quarterbacks with early deals. In that sense, Sanders isn't just representing himself, he's testing whether NFL rookies can carry sneaker lines the way NBA rookies can. For the Browns locker room, the future implications are subtler but equally important. If Sanders succeeds, the endorsement becomes a rallying point, proof that Cleveland finally has a star who can elevate the franchise both on and off the field. Veterans would respect the spotlight, and teammates would benefit from the expanded national attention. But if Sanders stumbles, the deal could create quiet resentment. Players who grind for years without major endorsements may view Sanders as someone handed the spotlight prematurely. That can fracture locker room trust, especially if Sanders is seen as prioritizing his brand over his reps. Stefanski and Andrew Berry will have to manage that dynamic carefully, ensuring that Sanders' marketing doesn't overshadow his development or his role as a teammate. Another implication lies in media coverage. National networks don't like to admit it, but they schedule around stars. If Sanders proves himself, Cleveland games could shift into more primetime windows, boosting ratings and revenue. But if the deal continues to backfire, Cleveland risks being overexposed early in the season and then ignored later, which would hurt both the team's perception and the league's ability to market its next generation of quarterbacks. The NFL thrives on quarterback-driven storylines. If Sanders fails to sustain his, the league may pivot coverage back toward established veterans, delaying the spotlight for younger stars. From a gambling standpoint, future implications are tied to credibility. Sportsbooks saw Sanders-related bets collapse by nearly 50% after initial hype. If he doesn't recover, that segment of the betting market may disappear altogether, reducing the Browns' relevance in one of the NFL's fastest-growing revenue streams. Conversely, if Sanders rebounds with a breakout performance, say a 300-yard, 3-touchdown game in his first extended start, prop bets will flood back and sportsbooks will ride the wave. The fluctuation shows how Sanders' narrative directly affects fan engagement in ways that go beyond traditional ticket sales. For Sanders personally, the stakes are immense. A rookie quarterback's first season often sets the tone for his entire career. If he starts strong, even in flashes, the narrative can carry him through early struggles. If he starts poorly, the overhyped label can stick for years. With Nike's deal hanging over his head, Sanders has less margin for error than most rookies. Every missed throw, every benching, every interception will be viewed through the lens of the endorsement. And if he can't shake the perception that Nike jumped the gun, it could stun his ability to land future deals, even if his play eventually improves. Brand trust is hard to rebuild once it's lost. Future implications also extend to the Browns' long-term roster planning. If Sanders proves he can't handle the pressure, Cleveland may face another quarterback reset, which would devastate their timeline. Teams that constantly shuffle quarterbacks struggle to build sustained success, and fans know it. But if Sanders rises to the challenge, the payoff is enormous. A young, marketable quarterback with a national endorsement can transform a franchise's fortunes, turning Cleveland from a regional team into a national brand. That's why the Nike deal matters so much. It isn't just about shoes, it's about whether Cleveland finally has the player to anchor their next decade. And looking further ahead, playoff implications loom. The AFC is loaded with established quarterback talent. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. If Sanders can't elevate the Browns into that conversation within 2 or 3 years, the Nike deal will be remembered as premature. But if he does, the deal becomes prescient, proof that Nike identified a star before the league fully realized it. Playoff success multiplies everything: ticket demand, merchandise sales, national broadcasts, and fan loyalty. Without it, hype-driven endorsements tend to fade. There's also the cultural narrative to consider. Sanders, as the son of Deion Sanders, carries a unique legacy. If he thrives, his Nike partnership could symbolize the continuation of that legacy, linking 2 generations of Sanders icons under the same swoosh. That story would sell not just sneakers, but an entire cultural brand narrative. If he falters, however, the contrast between his father's legendary career and his own struggles will only sharpen the criticism. The shadow of expectation will grow heavier, and the Nike deal will be framed as a miscalculation rather than a milestone. Ultimately, the future implications of this deal depend on whether Sanders can align his performance with his brand. Right now, the measurable outcomes, dipping ticket prices, declining viewership, skeptical fan sentiment, suggest the deal is backfiring. But the NFL moves fast. One strong month, one comeback win, one viral highlight can flip the narrative. Nike is betting that Sanders has that turnaround in him. The Browns are betting that he can stabilize their quarterback position. Fans are waiting to see if he's more Baker Mayfield or more Patrick Mahomes. The stakes couldn't be higher, because if Sanders fails, it won't just be his reputation that takes the hit. It will be Nike's, Cleveland's, and perhaps the league's broader appetite for marketing unproven rookies. In the end, Shedeur Sanders' reported Nike shoe deal is shaping up as a high-stakes experiment that could either cement him as the NFL's next crossover star or serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of hype arriving before production. The flashes of excitement, jersey sales spiking into the top 5, ticket markets swelling for his debut, preseason ratings jumping nearly 30% show the potential payoff. But the equally sharp declines, merchandise slowing by 40%, resale prices cratering from $175 to $40, viewership dipping by nearly 1 million when he sat reveal the volatility underneath. For Nike, Cleveland, and Sanders himself, the deal isn't just about footwear. It's about timing, credibility, and whether a rookie quarterback can carry the weight of a brand before proving himself on the field. The takeaway is simple. If Sanders delivers, the Nike deal will look like a masterstroke. If he doesn't, it may be remembered as one of the most premature bets in recent NFL history. So here's where the debate begins. Did Nike jump the gun in handing Sanders a shoe deal before he'd thrown an NFL touchdown? And more importantly, can Sanders flip the narrative with on-field play before the skepticism hardens into lasting doubt?